This conference will now be recorded.
So let's wait for a couple of more minutes and we'll get started. All right, let's get started while others may join. And again, thanks everyone for joining. Uh, so welcome to the class. So before we begin, uh, as usual, any questions? Anyone has any questions regarding this course? I mean, only people who have attended the demo, because if you have not attended the demo, obviously you would have a lot of questions. So first, you might want to go through the demo video, which Career IT folks will share with you. Um, so yeah, those who have attended the session after the, I know it was a long demo. Some of you might have dropped off after spending the weekend thinking about this class. If you have any questions still, please ask me.
Hi, Kiran. This is Sid. So my question is, after the demo, there's only one class which happened yesterday, correct?
No, this is the first class after the demo.
Oh, okay. So okay,
No
that's cool.
classes on Sunday.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the absolute first class for this batch.
Yeah, Kiran, this is Rajesh. Are you audible for me?
Yes.
Yeah, Kiran, like in Azure, we have so many roles in the market, right? Like in Azure developer, Azure admin, or Azure architect, or so many roles in this one. So, from the
Hmm.
content of this course,
Hmm.
so one, so from this content, so where we will be going, like an either we are going for developer or admin or architect or which role, or can go for any role or some.
See, this is a DevOps course. Could you mute, please? Yeah, thanks. Yep. This is a DevOps role, and sorry, this is a DevOps course which we will teach along with Azure. Okay. So the ideal position you would be looking for is a DevOps engineer, okay, in a company which is already very well using Azure, and there are a lot of those opportunities. If you, I mean, if you just Google with, or rather, if you go to LinkedIn or Naukri or anywhere and search for, DevOps jobs, you'll find many of these requirements that we are discussing in our course. For instance, I don't have that slide readily available, but as I said, yeah, let me pull that up real quick. Uh, if you look at our curriculum, okay, come on. Okay, if you look at this curriculum, cloud Azure is one part of it. It's going. I mean, we're going to cover many services within the within Azure, but if you look at the other components, like we are talking about Terraform, Ansible, and of course, version control, which is very important for any DevOps role. We are talking about Azure DevOps, which itself is not a core part of Azure cloud offering. Okay, this is again a CI/CD tool. We're talking about Docker. We are talking about Azure monitoring. All these are in demand today. Okay, so you don't have to just look at Azure related jobs. It's a DevOps role wherein they are already using Azure. So you of course you would need some experience as a DevOps engineer or as an SRE engineer to become an architect. Okay, um, so architect is out of question. You are not into development. This is not a development course. You are not developing any solutions on Azure. When I say developing solutions, you're not building your applications and deploying them on Azure, meaning you're not writing the code. You will help developers deploy the code onto the Azure infrastructure. So we are targeting Azure DevOps engineer. Okay, it's not Azure developer. It's not Azure architect. It could be Azure admin, yes, but most of the persons who are working in admin roles I've seen do everything manually. Okay, so this is more of an automation. So DevOps is all about automation, right? So we do a lot of automation, okay, and deploy learning all these DevOps technologies on Azure. Make sense?
Okay, but if I okay, this is purely talking about the DevOps related. So,
Yeah.
but Azure is one of the part of in your course in DevOps, but not the pure Azure, but like an Azure is a part of in your DevOps. So
Yes.
totally, you're talking about DevOps related tools and platforms and automations,
Yes.
whatever DevOps
Yeah, and
related.
yeah,
Okay.
and we learn everything on Azure. So we learn a lot of Azure as well. So it's DevOps plus Azure. This course is DevOps plus Azure.
Okay. Sorry, that I'm going to ask, which is not relevant for here. Like, if I want to take the Azure Cloud Architect, so this course is not suitable, or which course is suitable for me?
So have you any experience already on Azure?
No, I don't have any experience. So basically, I'm looking like an Azure, like an very extreme knowledge on the Azure. So I want to be an Azure cloud architect. I want to be in that position.
So what's your experience on any cloud for that matter?
No, I don't have any experience on the cloud. I am basically on warehouse architect. So I'm
Okay.
having entire warehouse related core subject on that. Now our
Yeah.
warehouse, we are planning to move to that Azure cloud platform. So which in that, so I want to grooming on the Azure related fundamentals and Azure related courses.
Yes, absolutely. So this course will not make you an Azure architect, but as you can see, we are covering a lot within Azure, like your resource group. How do you manage accesses? How do you manage your subscription? Or how do you make sure you configure your virtual networks, virtual machines? And we talk a bit about storage, but from a data warehousing perspective, there are a lot of solutions in Azure which we don't cover. For example, your data analysis servers or data lake solutions. All these things are not part of this course. Those are specifically meant for data engineers. This is a more focused on IaaS services, infrastructure as a service kind of services, in the sense of virtual machines and your virtual networks and all that. But even if you want to become an architect, you need to get the you need to have your base really firmly strong, so that those things are covered in this course, but those alone are not covered. It's not just covering Azure, it's covering a lot of other things. Like you can see, we talk about operating systems, we talk about Terraform, Ansible, and all these things. Okay, so not specific, this is not a very specific Azure course. This is DevOps course with Azure, DevOps with Azure course rather, right?
Yeah, okay, okay. Thank you, Kiran. I don't want to waste your time. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, Kiran. So, IAS topics will be covered, right?
Yes, yes. Yeah, they will be covered. We'll cover in depth in about virtual networks, virtual machines, storage part, and the organization of your resources using resource group. How do you assign access to different users? What is Active Directory? Very very basic, I mean, top level concepts of Azure Active Directory, and how it is used in the production environments. And we'll talk about how to manage Azure through a command line interface. Okay, and of course then we are going to use Terraform to create resources on Azure. All these will be covered, which are important for a DevOps perspective, from a DevOps perspective.
Thanks, Kiran.
Yep. Any other questions?
So are you also gonna show like Chef and Puppet, how to work with those alongside with Ansible?
No, no.
Okay.
I'm not going to show, because look at this one. Sorry, who's this?
My name is Sid. Sorry.
Yeah, Sid. Sid, see, this course, as I said, is aimed for beginners. When I say beginners, beginners into the IT world or IT operations world or the DevOps world, and also someone who has some experience with quality assurance, or let's say um, you know production support or operations role, any kind of role. So if I start talking about multiple concepts in each of these verticals, okay, it would be really overwhelming for anyone, isn't it? You already are learning a lot in this 8 to 10 weeks. So if I put Ansible and Chef, that would be really really overwhelming for any of you, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, I have never used Puppet, used Chef a bit, but I mostly used Ansible, and
Ansible.
Ansible is predominant. And of course, even if you learn, let's say you learned Ansible, Chef, and Puppet, there might be an organization which might be asking you for Salt Stack. Okay, so
Yeah.
again, will you learn Salt Stack, or someone might be asking SCCM?
Yeah.
So you'll have to look in for the best fit. For instance, there might be an organization which is looking for an engineer who knows Terraform, who's good with Azure, who's good with Linux, who's good with Docker and Azure DevOps, but they're looking for Salt Stack solution. Let's say, for instance, then
Yeah.
you apply for that job and you say you never worked on Salt Stack. They would still understand if you know Ansible. You know, they would still understand and let you. They definitely give you the opportunity, because tooling is one part, but the implementation is another part, the application part is another part. Okay, once you learn Ansible and what it does, you could also apply the same principles for let's say Puppet or Chef.
Correct. So
Yeah.
yeah, these days, they've been. I mean, I've been attending a few interviews, and they've been asking a lot. Like Chef, Puppet, Ansible is like mandatory. They also go into the Azure CLI and
Yes.
PowerShell for scripting. Sometimes they
Yeah.
also want us to code on Python and stuff like that. So
Yes, yes. As I said, DevOps, as I said in the demo, DevOps is a very, 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 very wide area. Okay.
correct,
People's
correct.
expectations are different. So that's what I tell anyone who is, looking out for job changes or
Hmm.
who is already in some sort of DevOps and attending interviews. Don't be disheartened because, X company's requirement might not fit with your skill set. That doesn't mean you're bad. Okay. And Some people might ask PowerShell, some people might ask Bash scripting. I do cover a bit of Bash scripting. Okay, the
Okay,
basics of Bash scripting. How do you script? How do you use variables? So my concept is always about, telling you the path how to automate stuff. So the same concepts you can apply on PowerShell, for instance. Okay, the concepts. Of course, I try to give a parallel between PowerShell and Bash shell when I'm doing Bash scripting, but not much on PowerShell. I
okay.
personally hate PowerShell. It's
Yeah,
not really mature. And today you can run any kind of script from any system thanks to
correct.
tools like Azure DevOps or Jenkins, automation systems like these. Okay, so yeah. And Azure CLI, yes, definitely. Anyone worth his salt learning a cloud should not learn just the portal part, accessing through the web portal and access managing that is not at all, learning the cloud. You have to know how to automate using the CLI utilities. Okay, so that will be another important part of our course. After the first few weeks, we are going to do everything through either Azure CLI or Terraform. And each time I'll show you what I'm doing actually with for creating our resources. For instance, if you want to learn Ansible, first, I'll create the infrastructure using Terraform. Then I'll show you how to use Ansible. Then maybe I'll integrate both these things and show it in a single step. Okay. Yeah.
All
So
right.
there's always, and no company asks you. I mean, in my experience, because I also interview people, no company or no interviewer asks you if you know all three of them: Ansible, Chef, and Puppet. Um, one of them would be really enough. Okay, unless they genuinely want to I mean they want to reject you anyways, they will ask you all the three. For example, um, yeah, similarly with the CA and CD tools, right? You have ton at least, more than 2 dozens of CA CD tools. If you take Azure DevOps, GitHub Actions, Jenkins, you have Travis CI, you have GitLab CI, you have
Um,
um, Concourse. What is that one?
Bamboo.
Bamboo. You have Concourse. You have GoCD, uh,
Yeah.
and you name it. You name it. There are a lot of them, right? And
Right.
you don't have to learn everything. You just need to understand the concepts. And these days, everything is, as I said, there is this concept called as XAAC. Okay, where X stands for everything. Everything as XAC. Sorry, everything as code. Okay, so meaning your pipeline will also be in the format of YAML pipelines. So we'll talk about that as well, how you can create an YAML pipeline in Azure DevOps that can be ported to something like GitHub Actions, or that can be also ported to something like your GitLab CI with minor changes. You need to understand the concepts, and if you know how you can apply on Azure DevOps, for instance, you can take the same idea and apply to, let's say, GitLab CI. Okay,
Sure.
or even
Thank you.
GitHub Actions. Yes, yes. So yeah, one topic. I'm sorry, one technology per the process, or per the vertical, to help you understand these things. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Don't hesitate. There's no right or wrong question. No silly or stupid question. Every question is valid.
Yeah, Kiran, from my side, one question.
Hmm.
So, can we get any study material, or we need to write mm, um, how it would be?
So I told, in the demo, I maintain my notes in GitHub. I'll share that with you later. Okay. Once we come to that stage, I'll share that notes with you, and you'll be able to download that and focus on that one, particularly from my course perspective for each of the concepts that we've decided.
Okay.
We are going to discuss. Okay. And apart from that, every now and then I'm going to share some links on the chat immediately that you have to
Okay.
save it immediately. Okay. Microsoft documentation or any other documentation that I find online. Sometimes I might also refer any important links I find online. Okay. So yeah, I did not put up any list of resources that you could go through, but I recommend you doing this. You always maintain a notepad or a whatever it is on whether on your laptop or on your physical notebook, and making notes of things I tell, because sometimes I give you some sources which you might find useful later. Okay, so I'll tell you this. Okay, during this course, just focus on whatever we are discussing in every day. Okay, for instance, if we are talking about let's say IP addresses or stuff like that today, just think about that today. Don't I mean, just go to after the class also you could research on any of those topics rather than uh, reading about something else. Okay, and then tomorrow, let's say we're talking about virtual networks, read about virtual networks for tomorrow or the day after. Okay, so on and so forth. And later, once you come to a critical stage where you understand everything very well, when I say understand everything, meaning you understand the holistic picture and you could figure out what's happening, then there's the time you can read case studies, you can read blogs. Okay, thankfully there's a lot of material online available to understand how things work in large corporations. There are webinars. There are you can go to YouTube and find how people are implementing CI/CD solutions in their organizations. Everything is available in online today. You don't, a lot of that is not also paid stuff also. Yeah.
Okay, Kiran.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, let's do this. We'll get introduced to all of you. I mean, some of you have spoken, that's good. So let's get introduced to all of you later. Like we'll start with 2 folks or 3 folks per day as we go along. Um, yeah, again, I need not introduce myself. I guess most of you have attended the demo. My name is Kiran. I have about 10 years of experience in this DevOps and SRE operations and all these things. Yeah, so I'm currently working as a senior DevOps engineer, and I have experience in all the things we are talking about, and also Kubernetes. I am a certified Kubernetes administrator. Yeah, very passionate about technology and teaching, like I said. Uh, yeah, just a refresher about myself as well. Um, and before we begin, again, I'm going to reiterate some of the things we spoke in the demo. Uh, One thing is your participation really matters, folks. I know you would like to, if it's too early in the morning, if you're in India, you would like to just get up from the sleep and just turn on your laptop or iPad and sit in front of it. Or if you're in the Northern American continent, you would like to kind of, after a long day, you would like to kind of plonk on your couch and just turn on your tab or iPad and just see through my class. Let's see what he's talking about. But that's not a good practice. Try to turn on your laptop, sit in front of your laptop, try making notes actively. Okay, grab a coffee if you want, not a beer. um, and try to be attentive, try to ask as many questions as possible. No one here, including me, is really uh, he is really a Wikipedia or someone who knows everything about everything. There are a lot of things even I don't remember, I don't know. So if I don't know, I'll just say that, okay, I'll get back to you. I'll look into that. Okay. Even when I do the demo, there might be sometimes I forgot even the basics, small things, and I have to Google. It's fine. Okay. So there's no shame in asking any questions. There are no right and wrong questions. There are no silly and serious questions. Every question matters. So if you ask me more questions, okay, so we all will benefit. When I say we all, including me and all the other participants will also benefit. You might get a you might think of something that no one else has thought of. So don't hesitate to ask questions. Try to complete the assignments whenever we start them. Okay, I mean every day I just give you one assignment about, let's say, do this thing, create a virtual machine, or practice these Linux commands, or using these Linux commands do these things. I keep on giving you those tasks. You have to complete them. And when I ask questions, don't feel that, okay, some, I mean, when I ask questions, those are not like just rhetorical questions. I don't mean to say like, okay, do you know this, and I will not proceed. I'll ask you if anyone knows about that. It doesn't matter how much you know. It would be good for you to open up. If you cannot open up with me today or in front of this crowd, how can you do that in an interview tomorrow on a virtual video call? Okay, on a video call. Okay, so you have to start speaking up, get confident in what you're doing. You might do some mistakes, but that's fine. I mean, as I said, no one here is perfect. All right, make sense? I'm expecting an answer.
Yes,
Hello.
Kiran.
Yeah, cool. Yes.
Yes, I'm a very into IT. Till today, I have not been in IT industry.
Hey,
So please
sorry.
make,
Your voice is cracking up. I cannot hear you.
could you
Hello.
please make the class from the scratch? Like, hello,
Yes, yes. Yeah. Tell me.
I'm a fresher. Hello,
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
could you could you please make the class from the scratch? Like, so many terminologies. What you're telling, I didn't even hear about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so many things you're using. I have
Yeah.
not been through them till yet. So please make the class from the scratch.
Yeah. Sure. Sure. Definitely. Yeah. I'll as I said in the demo, I'm again saying that we will go. From the basics, but you would also have to put in some effort. Okay, because
Yes, I.
uh, yeah. So the effort you would need to put is make notes of anything that you did not understand. Maybe at the end of the class you can ask me. Maybe sometimes my answer is only just Google it, because that might be a pretty simple thing. But don't worry about all the terminology and all these things. By end of the course you'll get a grasp on most of these things. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so let's begin. Yeah, before we proceed, any other questions?
Yeah, Kiran. So when it comes to assignment, like suppose we were stuck at some point, and
Hmm.
like, will you be able to help us the next day, or like on your free time, available time?
I will. Okay, not in the free time, maybe in the class, because others will also benefit. Maybe towards the end of the class or towards the very beginning of the class, we'll discuss that point. If it's too easy, like, I'll ask you to Google, of course. Okay. When I say the point you stuck at is very easy, then you'll have to do some googling and all that. Okay, so another important thing I want you all to think of from today is, think of yourself as a DevOps engineer. Even that lady who has just spoken, she might be a fresher, but your mindset should be like a DevOps engineer. What does a DevOps engineer do? You know, right? What does he do? Google. So Google, without Google, DevOps or SRE doesn't exist. For that matter, developers also don't exist. Okay, so everything, what you need to do is you need to understand what's causing the issue. Okay, it might not be easy at the first time, but as you read through the error messages, you might get some understanding. But definitely I'll help you whenever you're stuck, or there is you know some blocker that's not letting you go forward. I'll clear that off. Don't worry. I'll let you share your screen, and you can show me what's the problem, and I can show, I mean, do that. But not always, right? Because time is a precious thing for us. So unless it's very very simple thing that you could simply get an answer from googling, I'll definitely explain. Don't worry. All right then. Okay, so Yeah, hoping no other questions, I'll move into the class. So let me ask you this. You all access websites today. Of course, most of the services are accessed through apps today, but doesn't matter. Let's say you go to your web browser and type in www.google.com. Okay, just typed it and hit enter. And from the time you hit enter to the time the page loads, do you know what happens? Not after the page loading, just after you hitting the URL and the page loading, do you know what happens?
The response is sent back to search for that engine.
So response, who sends this response?
The DNS.
Okay, what is DNS now?
It's basically a domain naming service.
Correct. Okay.
So yeah, it takes a record and basically if you do like www.google.com, it's nothing but it has an IP address to it. So
Okay.
it registers and gives it a name. Suppose if you do 8.8.8.8, it's also like google.com. It takes you to google.com.
Does it?
Yeah.
Or is it Google DNS address?
It's the Google's DNS address. So
no, it shouldn't take me anywhere. That's fine.
usually, so that's why. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a DNS address. It will
Yeah.
help you to resolve the DNS. It's not
Resolve
itself a website. Yeah. Okay. So a lot of terminologies Sid and I used here. So let's talk about each of these things. Okay. So how many of you have been born before 95? Let's say a few of you
Yeah, myself.
before 95, right?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. 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 Anyone before 90?
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I'm not alone. I'm not the older person here. Good. Okay. So back in the day, when we did not have our mobile phones, when we have to make any calls, okay, let's say I want to call Mr. You know, Kurakalapparao, for instance. Okay, in my town, I know he exists somewhere. We did not have these telephone directories. Forget about Truecaller, nothing. Okay. I mean, when I say telephone directory on your telephone contact list on your mobile phone, because there is no mobile phone at all. Okay. So then we would go to this big thing called as telephone directory. Okay. So this telephone directory has, every time you take a connection from BSNL, at the time there was only BSNL. I think some cities had VSNL as well. Because Bengalis had problem pronouncing VSNL, there was only BSNL finally. Just kidding. No offense to Bengalis. So BSNL, every time you take a connection, your name would be uploaded in the directory, and these books will be sold. So people used to buy these books periodically, these big chunk books, okay, called telephone directories. There, every person who takes a, for example, Berakaila Ramarao, okay. So there is the list will be like this, okay. Berakaila Ramarao, there is his phone number, okay, with the these are local, so per city, so just like this, okay, or something, Avakaila Annapurna, okay. So this will be like the back in the day, this is to be the phone numbers format, okay. So all these people in your town will have their names listed in telephone directory, okay. So somewhere also, after you going through a lot of pages which are alphabetically sorted, you will find, I mean, you need not go through each page, you can directly go to the page which starts with K. There you will find this person's phone number, okay. So from here, you know you need to reach Kurakalapparao. Now you know the number, so you pick up this number, you copy this number, or I mean register in your mind, open up your I mean pick up your telephone and dial this number back in the day, okay. So something similar happens in our phones also, right? When you want to reach some person, you don't remember his phone number. Okay, you just remember his name, you type his name, and but in the back end you know that it is dialing a contact number, not a person's name, right? So DNS is something very similar, folks. When you want to reach to google.com, the computers don't understand google.com, rather they understand something called as IP address, which might look something like this. Okay, don't worry about this, we'll cover about this, what are these four parts and everything. But for your computer, for the internet to understand and get you the pages from google.com, or let's say wikipedia.com, or duckduckgo.com, or facebook.com, everything has a IP address. What does it have? IP address. Just like a telephone number, every website has a IP address. So tomorrow, if you also want to open or launch a website, of course, you would also have to create your own IP address. Okay, which might like one of these formats. Okay, so before my before my web browser displays the page, where should it get the page from? It should get from google.com, but for my internet to understand, it has to know what my DNS name is, okay, or what my IP address is. So uh, this is called domain name. Okay, google.com or wikipedia.com, or let's say city.com, all these are domains, or facebook.com, instagram.com. Even on your app, when you install, of course, every time it has to go, it will not go every time, but it will cache some details. But of course, even on your Android apps also, the DNS resolution has to work. Okay, so excuse me. So everything has an IP address associated with them, just like your telephone directory. Okay, each address has, sorry, each domain has one IP address where you are routed to. So before your page loads, like Sid rightly said, this thing occurs. Your name, your domain name will be converted to your IP address. Okay, back in the day we used telephone directory, all the 90s kids. Okay, now these days we use, I mean, the internet uses DNS, which is called as domain name service. So the work of this domain name service is to find the right IP address for the domain you're looking for. Okay, whatever domain it is. If I launch a website, for example, let's say kkcorp.com or kktrainings.com or whatever it is, if I have to make it available for others to access, I have to register my name kktrainings.com as a domain, and also I have to supply my IP address, telling them if any request comes to kktrainings.com, send it to this particular IP address. Okay, so let's see the details of how DNS works. Okay, so, and yeah, before we go there, let's analyze the IP addresses format, right? Let's take an example of www.google.com. Also, you could think of it, or simply google.com. Sometimes you might have something like this, right? Drive.google.com. If you're opening Google Drive, drive.google.com. Okay, sometimes you might see email addresses in this format, maybe. Okay, or yeah, these are various formats. You have the, what do you call, the domain names of each of these websites. Okay, sometimes not related to the DNS, but just as a cybersecurity tip, you'll see websites like this. Okay, flipkart.auxc-txy.com. Okay, so where do you find domain names like this, folks? Or Flipkart hyphen coupons, something like this. Where do you find these email address domain names? So these are the ones which are used by the the scamsters to lure you to take your data. Okay, so you will get these WhatsApp forwards, right? Get free Flipkart coupons worth 10,000 by just spending 5 rupees or something like that. Or it will simply say Flipkart is distributing 100 rupees vouchers for your for new customers. Register here, and the website URL will be like this or something like this: Amazon hyphen freemoney dot some tyz.com, right? So you see Amazon in the URL. So you might wonder why it's genuine one, because they have Flipkart in the domain, in the address name, right? No, that's wrong. Okay, that's why we're talking about these things as a site. So these things matter. Okay, I could also create a website called as KK coupons, and before that I could put something like amazon.kkcoupons.com. Okay, we'll talk about these things also later, but I'm saying this is the important part to understand who is the owner of this website. Okay, you will never see something like amazon.google.com, of course. Okay, or you'll never see something like some trashy address like this and followed by flipkart.com, unless Flipkart is really not focusing on creating right domain names. Okay, the point I'm trying to say is, you have to, when you're looking at your address spaces, you have to go from right to left. Okay, so you don't notice this, this will not be present, but by default every website has a dot at the end. Okay, and that has a significance that is hidden from us. I mean, you will never see that. Okay, but there is a dot, then there is .com, or in some cases, for example, wikipedia.org, or in some cases usa.gov, for instance. Okay, or nsa.gov, or whatever it is. So then you have this part, and in some cases, for example, you're talking about universities, mit.edu. Okay, you might have seen all these extensions, right? .com, .org, .gov, .edu, and you have .co.in. Okay, and .co.uk, .com.au. These are various kinds of what we call as top level domains. What are those? Top level domains. The first dot is known as root server, root. Okay, so if you look at any, let's just take google.com to make it simple. Just google.com, not www.google.com, google.com. So the first part is called as root. Okay, which will have information about all your other .coms, .com or .org. This is called as top level domain. Okay, top level domain, and this is the domain of your website. Okay, so Google is the domain, .com is the TLD, the dot which you never see is root. Okay, so why is this root important? I'll come to that. Okay, or let's say wikipedia.org, so .com. So again you have the dot is always the root server. Okay, the dot is called as the root server, or root simply, and the .org is the top level domain. Okay, and Wikipedia is the domain, right? And how do you get the domain? We'll come to that. Like, how can I open any website? You could also open your website, you know that, right? Okay, now look at this dummy website we're talking about. Where is that thing? Flipkart coupons dot Flipkart hyphen coupons dot xnd, whatever, they put some random name, right? So if you look at this one, you don't even have to worry about what's there before this one for now. Okay, so if you look at this one, this is the root server, this is the top level domain, or sometimes these top level domains are also like XYZ. That's also a valid one, not that it's not valid, but it's easy to register in that name. It will not cost you much money. And look at this one, the main domain of this website is not Flipkart, it is something called new World or whatever it is. Okay, so these are easy to buy from the market when you're because if you have to register a website, you have to buy from the domain name sellers, and you will get only those things which are not registered. For example, if I want to create a website called as google.com, can I create? No, because Google as a domain name is sold out. Okay. Similarly, Wikipedia as a domain name is sold out. Okay, we'll come to that part. So this is the part you need to pay attention to understand where you are going. Okay, or even if your website is something like this, .com/Flipkart coupons. This is not what you should bother about. There will be spelling mistakes also, or they will put something like this one also. Okay, so this is not what you should bother about. What you need to bother about is the part that is preceding your .com immediately. Okay, you need not worry about what's there after this also. That's not also the genuine website. This is the domain name. Okay, so yeah, that's the cybersecurity part to understand which is a genuine website and not. But for our DNS understanding perspective, why are we learning all these things? Okay, so as I said, when you type in google.com, not www.google.com, we'll come to www.google.com later. So there is an implicit dot that is already there. Even if you don't put it, your browser will take it. Okay, you don't have to put that explicitly, your browser will automatically take it. Okay, so now I in the sense my computer needs to find out the IP address for google.com. So what are the various steps involved in this one that we need to understand? Okay, anyone has a question here? So this is my laptop. Okay, and I type www.google.com in the browser, not www.google.com, only google.com. Okay, as I said, my browser will automatically add dot. So the first thing my browser is going to check is there a do I know the IP address for google.com? Okay, do I know the IP address for google.com? Meaning, has it already stored its IP address in the cache? Okay, if not, then it will go to what is the next hop in your internet connection from your laptop. Where does your connection goes? Assuming you are using a broadband connection.
Router.
Correct. It will go to your home router. Okay. So your router is like your gateway for your internet access, right? All the traffic comes through router and goes out through the router. Okay. So this some people call it as modem, though it's not a modem. So all routers are not modems. So you connect to, so your browser will send a request to your router and asking, hey, do you know an IP address? Do you have IP address for google.com? So your router, some routers, or in fact most routers, have caching mechanism. It checks in its cache. Cache is nothing but this cache, CACHE. Cache is nothing but the information that computer store to readily make some things available for you. So router is also like a computer, right? So we'll talk about that later. So your router checks and say, hey, no, I don't know. So the next hop, where is the next hop in your network connectivity? Your ISP, Internet Service Provider, right? So it will go to, let's put this as your ISP. Come on. Yeah, this is not internet, but yeah, anyway. So it will go to your ISP. Your ISP maintains something called as domain name resolver. Okay, it's a service like any web pages or anything. Its work is to find out the IP addresses because it already has the huge cache of data stored in it. It will try to find out the IP address for google.com. So let's say it doesn't have the IP address for google.com. Okay, so then the next step would be, as I said, when you type in google.com, okay, remember I told you that there is a dot. That dot means the root server of DNS. Okay, so your ISP says, okay, I don't know the IP address. I mean, when I say it doesn't, it doesn't mean if a person says that, but the server itself says, okay, I don't know it. So it will forward the request to the next hop, which is your root server. Okay. So what are these things? These are again databases of data, not a single server, but it will send it to a location where it has all the data about all the top level domains. Okay. When I say top level domains, the root server has all the information about .com, .edu, .org, .xyz, .tech, .me, .website, you name it, right? Back in the day, we used to have only .com and maybe um, .co.uk, .co.in, and maybe .com.au. .gov has always been there. In Indian government, we have nic.in or something like that. Okay, these were the few ones, but these days you'll see that there are a lot of top level domains like .xyz, .tech, .website, dot uh, what is the other one, .blog. You have everything, you name it. There are a lot of top level domains. Of course, you cannot create it yourself. The top level domain should be approved by another organization. We'll come to that in a minute. But this root server has information about all these top level domains. Okay, any top level domain that is created should be uploaded in the root server. So root server says, okay, I don't know this IP address, but I can show you a location where you might get it. So this is a .com address. So I'll redirect you to the .com server. Okay. So from root server, you go to a top level domain site. Okay. So this is .com. This is .com top level domain. Okay. So .com server. So .com has information about every website registered under the domain root. Okay. So tomorrow, if Sid decides to, okay, register a website, he might say sidrocks.com. Okay. They might be already in a website, but let's say sidrocks.com. So for Sid to register this website, he cannot simply just go and say, okay, from today, sidrocks.com is my website. He cannot do that. Okay. There will be some people called as domain name registrars. Excuse me. So just like how you have to get your vehicle names, okay, or how you have to get your land patta from a registrar, sub-registrar office in India, you need to go and register for your website in domain name registrars. For example, you have GoDaddy, which is a domain name register. You have Namecheap, which is again a domain name registration company. You have what's the other one? Cloudflare. Cloudflare also, I think you can help. Amazon, you can also register your websites on Amazon as well. Okay, so you go to one of these websites, or there is a free service we talked about in demo, Freenom. Okay, I mean, some websites will be free here. Not the .com ones, but .tk and other things you will get for free. So you have to go to one of these registers and search for, okay, sidrocks.com. Is this website available? So if no one has already registered this website, they will say, okay, it's available, and it costs you about $10 per month. This is not for your website, folks. This is only for the name. Okay, this is only for the name. This is like what could be the real world example for this one? Like registering a movie title, for instance. Okay, just because you buy the domain name, that means if you go to sidrocks.com, you'll see a website. No, you'll have to do a lot of other stuff. Okay, but no one else can buy sidrocks.com once you buy it for $10 per year. Sorry, not that expensive. Or it depends upon the demand. If a lot of people are trying to create a website called as sidrocks, then the demand will definitely go up, and it might go up to like, okay, $25 per year. If no one is looking for it, it could come as well as like $4 per year, just for the name. Okay, just for the name, not for the website. So you will get this website for sidrocks.com for $4 per year. I'll show you how you can do that. I mean, we have an elaborate class on that right now. Just for an example, I'll show you if you have to register a new website, what you need to do. For example, Freenom is one of such services. You can say sid rocks and look for check availability. So it gives you these free websites, folks, like I told you, .ml, .ga, .cf. If you want to create, just go ahead and create this later for practice. sidrocks.tk is not available, but .ml is available. If you want to go for sidrocks.com, like I said, it's $8.38. If you go to some other websites like GoDaddy, I don't recommend GoDaddy. It's crappy. I once registered a website and it's very bad. But anyway, if you go to GoDaddy and say you'll want to find for sidrocks. So if most of you people are also Googling it, this price will go up. It's already showing as, oh my goodness, Sid, you are a very person in demand. Look at this one, 1,30,000. Seriously. Or if you want to go for sidrocks.in, it's only 149 rupees. But if you want to go for .com, it's 130,000. That's ridiculous amount of money. Anyway, but let's say Sidrocks is a brand tomorrow, he becomes a big star, then he wouldn't mind spending this much money, right? Okay. But here it's showing us only $8. This is really silly. Okay. Anyway, so you can register this name at sidrocks.com on your website. So every time you register this website, this information will be sent to the top-level domain .com server from your registrar. The registrar could be, as I said, it could be Freenom, Namecheap, or even GoDaddy, anything. So any of these persons from where you're buying this, and all these people query from the same list. Okay, all these people get the list of available websites from the same organization. There is one organization which maintains the list of all the IP addresses and their domain names. Okay, so they will of course check with .com if this website is already sold or not. Only then they will sell you. Okay, where were we? Sorry. Yeah, so similarly, when google.com has both Larry Page and Sergey Brin have brought the google.com page, they have also registered from one domain, and then they have updated their list here in .com servers. .com server says, oh no, I wish I could help, I don't have this information, but I know where this was bought from. Okay, so they will send this information to a registrar. They will send the request to a registrar. Okay, registrar is someone like, as I said, GoDaddy or Namecheap or whoever it is. So they simply sell their domain names. So this is a registrar, and this person, because since you have bought the IP domain name from here, this person will have the IP address. Then he will send it back to the top level domain, and the top level domain will cache it. Cache it in the sense it will store it in his own servers. So next time it will not go back to this registrar, and the root servers will also cache it, and it will say, oh, I put root servers twice. Why, I don't know. Okay, the top level domains cache it, then it goes to the root server, which will also cache it, and it will be sent to your DNS resolver, which originally sent the request, and it will also cache it in the sense it will also store it in its own database. Then it will send it to your router. Your router will also cache it. Your browser will also cache it. So next time when you visit google.com, all these steps are not required. Your browser already knows it. Okay, not only that, let's say someone from your home itself is trying to access google.com from their mobile phone. Now, even though they are accessing google.com for the first time, they go to the router, and your router has already cached it. So your router will give the IP address immediately. That's why you don't see so much of time for frequently used websites. But if you're using any websites that are completely new, it will take a little time. But that doesn't mean that time is very noticeable. If your internet is fast, you'll see that page, even if it's a completely new site, it will load in a few seconds, because DNS is a very efficient system. It works in very microseconds. I mean, very few microseconds. All right. So this is what happens when you type google.com. Okay, and this is only getting, till now we got only one part. What is that? Your page is not even loaded, you just got the IP address. Okay, so what's the Google IP address? 142.250.71.4. So you just get this part. You just get this part. In all this exercise, you'll only get this part. Then your browser will go to that server. We talk about that part in tomorrow's class. What happens when your request goes to this particular IP address? But the DNS part is only to get you the IP address. It is like surfing through your telephone directory and finding the name for Kurakal Apparao. Okay, in this case, it's google.com. Okay. So another case which you need to remember is, and this we will see personally also later in the DNS class. So sometimes you buy your website from your registrar, let's say name Freenom, but you want to manage your own IP addresses in a separate list. Okay, so then you can have your own DNS service. Okay, so you can manage your own DNS service using Azure, AWS, or you can set up your own DNS service. Okay, so here you will manage the IP addresses for your website, but this information also, at least this information you should give to your registrar, saying that where you are maintaining your IP addresses. Okay, so these things have something called as name servers. You will have to upload that information in the registrar case. So in this case, when your root server is querying .com and .com is querying your registrar, and registrar says, oh, I don't have this IP address, but I know where this person is storing the IP address, I will send it to you. From here, from this DNS, you'll get the IP address. Okay, in real world this happens. You might buy your website from, I mean, your company might, when I say your company might buy the website from, let's say, Namecheap or Cloudflare or Amazon or anywhere, but they might maintain the DNS in a different location. But you have to give that information to your registrar that I'm maintaining my DNS. DNS information is nothing but simple key value pairs. Like you'll say my domain name is kirantraining.com and IP address is this one. How do you get the IP address and all these things is for us to figure out as part of our training. We'll do that. Okay. So this is the very high level overview of what happens when you hit google.com, and before the page loads, your browser will get the IP address, and next step is to go to that IP address. Now you know the telephone number of Kurakal Apparao. Next thing is to dial it, right? So similarly, now your browser has the IP address. It will go to actual Google servers now. That part is for tomorrow's class. We'll see how once they get the IP address, the browser go to the and what happens after you get the IP address, after your browser gets the IP address. All this is an automated process, right? We'll never experience any issues. Okay, and Sid was talking about 8.8.8.8. That's a DNS IP address. Okay, so even for us to find the DNS names, we can give the idea like which DNS resolver to query. That will come to later. But this is the entire process that works in resolving your DNS name. And also, even if your router and browser has cached the DNS entry, there is something called as TTL, time to live. Meaning, what if the IP address is changed by Google here? I've already cached it in my router, but Google changes the IP address to something else. Today it is 142 dot something. Tomorrow it might change to 20 dot something else. Okay, then I have a stale IP address. Like my phone number is changed, but it's not updated in my phone list. I'm calling a number and it is saying the number is not available. Okay, so similarly, that might happen with IP addresses. That's why there is a TTL. Like every 24 hours, your name will. Today you access the google.com, it got the latest IP. Tomorrow when you .google.com, it will follow all these methods at least once and get the latest IP address, and it will be cached for the next 24 hours. Next 24 hours, it will not go and Google out for the, it will not go and look out for the new IP address. Okay, that's what we call as TTL setting, time to live. All right. So this is a very, very high level overview of how DNS works. There might be multiple steps like, the HTTP connections and UDP and all that stuff. we'll come to that later. We need not even come to that part also. Okay, so tomorrow, yeah. And what about these things now? the scamsters websites. This one, Amazon-freemoney.txy.com. What about this one? So this person who is trying to trick you, scam you, has registered a website called as txy.com. Sorry, he registered a website called as txy.com. So when you go to .com or some registrar like Freenom and just type for txy, okay, so txy.com is just $8. Okay, these are special. txy.tk is special, $500, but txy.com is only $8. So he can buy this website and he can create a website using some PHP or Java or simple HTML also, and he will create a subsite called as Flipkart coupons. Okay, it's very easy to create any subsite. Okay, it's like just a once you have your browser, it's like sorry, once you have a website, it's like a page inside it. Okay, and so the URL he is giving you through WhatsApp forwards is this one, flipkartcoupons.txy.com. But the IP address is for this one, and once you get the IP address, it will take you to this subsite within that one. Okay, there might be one txy.com main page, but inside it he's putting some dummy web page like Flipkart coupons, which will show the Flipkart logo and all that. It will ask you to spin a wheel or something, but when you're doing that, he's stealing information about your phone or your laptop. Okay, so this is not from Flipkart because he cannot create a website called as coupons.flipkart.com to even if he wants to create, because Flipkart has already bought that domain and it will not be available for it. You can try here for flipkart.com. Okay, it shows aged. See, there is no select option here, right? All these things are already bought over by Flipkart. Even the .org ones were bought over, because if you go to flipkart.org also, I think it should redirect you automatically to flipkart.com only. Just a guess, not sure. Yeah, see, it's redirected to flipkart.com because Flipkart knows that there will be some scamsters who will try to use these IP addresses, these domain names. So they will buy all these things and they will automatically redirect you to flipkart.com only. So even if I type flipkart.info, it should, yeah, this is not there. Someone bought this but not using it. So yeah, so he cannot buy flipkart.com because it's already registered for Flipkart. Okay,
I think
that's why he'll buy. Yeah.
sorry, I think flip.org is for their internal network, I guess. That's why it's getting redirected.
No. It's not about internet or internal or external one. What they
Okay.
do is they simply put a redirector. Okay, now it's
Right.
failing. They simply put a redirector that whenever any request comes from flipkart.org, just switch it to flipkart.com. Okay,
.com.
this is one clever way of not allowing others to kind of access your own. Go for .org and scam you, right? If Flipkart only buys the flipkart.com website and doesn't buy flipkart.org, someone else buys that website and cheats people. Then Flipkart cannot put these boardings, right? We do not have any branches called flipkart.org because in internet it's not possible. Like we see in our small towns, right? Optex, Mark Ekkada branches lev. They cannot put it something like that, right? So that's why they buy these. Like I think they also bought flipkart.in also, which will, yeah, not really. Flipkart.in. Yeah, see, flipkart.in also redirects to flipkart.com. So they bought all these domains so that they don't want anyone else to mess up with their, reputation and everything. All right. So yeah, this is from a cyber security part. This is the point I want to emphasize. When you see this one, you have to focus on this one. Okay, not what is there before this or even after this one. For example, that person can cleverly trick you by using an IP address, a URL like this. Okay, Flipkart coupons. Maybe he'll also put a .com to make it more, or let's say txv.xyz to make it even more, believable. He might put something like this, but actual website is txy.xyz. Okay, so and this is a sub page within that website. Anyone can create any kind of page in Flipkart coupons I mean, once you have a domain, I mean, I can create my website and name the subsites or the pages inside it as Amazon, Flipkart, or whatever I want. Okay, no one has control over this. But what you need to pay attention is this part. Okay, and also all our browsers have this green lock. This means a lot. This has very important information for you. So this tells you if this person has a certificate or not. And if you go here, he'll it says it's verified by GoDaddy.in. So Flipkart, we know that Flipkart is buying it from buying its certificate from GoDaddy. So if you see the certificate, it will tell you to whom it was issued to. Okay, it was issued. Common name is Flipkart.com, and so if you go to any of these websites, it will redirect to Flipkart.com only. Okay. So similarly, if you go to Google.com, any subsite of Google also, you'll see the connection details, and you can see that this was verified by Google Trust Services, and you can view the certificate. So to which organization it is issued, you will see that information also. This is issued to Google LLC, their state and province, everything is mentioned. All right, so this is applicable. This website is this certificate is applicable to any of these subsites also. Okay, so it's important to see. So you might see. So there was one big scam long back in the sense like 5-6 years ago. One person has cleverly put, one attacker has cleverly put apple.com IP addresses, but this I he put in a font when he was sending the email addresses in such a way that the I actually looked like L. Okay, he used some specific font. Okay, and it genuinely looked like www.apple.com. Okay, he used some specific font which makes capital I looks like small I looks like L. So when you open it, the website was created in such a way that everything is like Apple, and a lot of people have put in their credit card informations because he was offering some promotions, or he said that your Play Store, your iTunes is expiring or something, and it became a big scam. All that he did is cleverly put this I as L, and when they click that, they open the website, and no one pays attention to this part, right? Once your website is open, all that you're worried about is this section, right? Everyone knows that. You will never see this section. Or sometimes some people put like, online SBI.com or something. This is easy to get website, right? So people see online and SBI. SBI is, I think SBI's common name is this one. So this is also another. So when you go to sites like these, you have to check this one, and you will see that this is issued to someone else. Okay, so you can see that this is not issued to Flipkart.com. It might be issued to someone else. So that's how your SSL. This is called as SSL certificate. That will also help you to understand whether it's a genuine website or not. Okay, more on certificates later in our class, in our course. But that's the DNS part you need to understand. More of cybersecurity. It has become more of cybersecurity, but I thought it's important for you to know. Okay, any questions? This is a very, very efficient system, folks. This works in, fraction of seconds, microseconds.
Hey Kiran, what is the tool you are using to draw those pictorials?
This one, this is trade secret. I can't reveal. You have to go to apps. There is draw.io tool. Okay, you can. This is a online tool. Okay, just go to draw.io and click on create new diagram. It will redirect to apps.diagrams.net. Okay, or you can go to this URL also and you can search for any shapes like server. Most of the things you get disk, so you'll get some or you could say database. Everything will get some pictorial, or you could just type EC2, for example, Amazon's. Okay, you'll get those things. You want to type Docker, you should get some logos for that. Everything has logos. It's a nice tool, but not as flexible as Google Google diagrams. I prefer these Google diagrams because I can draw stuff like this, which looks really messy, but I can better convey the concepts there. Sometimes I use this, sometimes I use Google Drive. So draw.io or app.diagrams.net. It's a free service. No login, nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, before we go, um, first class, obviously I don't want to give you any tasks or anything, but there is one nice video. What is that called as? How DNS works. Let me get that for you. What's happening? Okay, I'll pause the sharing for a minute. I don't want you to see my YouTube history. Yeah, DNS explained. This is a really beautiful. This is really beautiful video on how DNS works. I mean, it will go a notch above what I talked today and explain each and every detail about DNS. Okay, so do follow this video. Not now, after the class. All right, over to you. If you have any questions, shoot. Otherwise, we'll connect tomorrow and we'll talk about what happens when you get the IP address after you getting the IP address.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
I'm good, Kiran. Thanks.
Yep.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Kiran. Thanks everyone. Talk to you tomorrow.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
See ya.
Yeah, see you tomorrow.
Thanks.
Thanks so much.
Hello.
Yep.
Hello, Kiran. I have a small doubt.
Hey, sorry, your voice is too low. I can't hear you.
Okay. Now, can you hear me?
Yeah, tell me. I mean, it's very low. Could you put your microphone close to your mouse?
Mm.
Hello?
Now?
Yes, it's better.
Hi, Kiran.
Hey.
I have a small doubt.
Mhm.
After all the sessions, can I clear a certificate?
Yeah, you could try for something like Azure 900, which is Azure Fundamentals. Okay.
Okay.
So if you want to pursue further after you can further practice and read some documentation, and you can go for AZ 400, which is Azure DevOps certification. Okay, which will cover both Azure Cloud and Azure DevOps tool as well. Okay, but you will need some time for preparation, at least 15-20 days. Go through their curriculum, read some documentation and all that. But right after the class, you could target directly Azure 900 with 2 to 3 days of AZ
Uh,
900 is the certificate name.
okay, cool. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome,
Have a
Purnima.
good day.
You too.